Tonight, Coast Guard has recovered the body of a fisherman on the Bonavista Peninsula. That story and...
There's different members in the unit who think certain things, but it has gone back and forth. It's like he's just vanished.
What happened to Ray Halleran more than 5 years after the St. Vincent's men went missing? We sit down with the RCMP's lead investigator.
There's a new ride service company that's offering much cheaper rides around the city than the cab companies. I'm Colleen Connors in Corner Brook, and I'll tell you all about Island Exotics.
This is Gusty, the codfish mascot for the 2025 Canada Games happening here in St. John's. We'll hear more from them coming up.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We begin on the Bonavista Peninsula. The Coast Guard has recovered the body of a 59-year-old fisherman. Police say a fishing boat washed up on the shore in Sweet Bay shortly after 5:30 p.m. yesterday. The boat belonged to a man who'd gone fishing earlier in the day but didn't return. The Coast Guard was called and later recovered the man's body. There were high winds at the time, and police say the investigation is continuing. Well, now to news from the courts. Dean Penny's bail hearing started in Supreme Court in Corner Brook this morning. The St. Anthony man faces a charge of first-degree murder in the death of his estranged wife, Jennifer Hillier Penny. She was reported missing at the end of November 2016, and her body was never found. Penny was arrested in Deer Lake in December and has been held at Her Majesty's Penitentiary in St. John's ever since. Penny has changed lawyers several times and is now represented by legal aid. The hearing is expected to take 3 days in Corner Brook. Penny has a preliminary inquiry set for later this summer. Well, the RCMP say they are stumped. A man who disappeared from his home in St. Vincent's more than 6 years ago seems to have vanished without a trace. No one has seen or heard from Ray Halleran since January of 2018. The CBC's Ariana Kelland sat down with lead investigator John Galway to talk about this real-life unsolved mystery.
Ray was a gentleman from St. Vincent. He was a hard-working man. He did a lot of work out at the major projects out of Bull Arm. You know, we had a couple of children. He was an outdoorsman, like hunting on the water. He was a diver. So a diverse individual. And as it turned out, the investigation it led to the fact that, you know, he just disappeared. And that was the crux of the investigation.
And so many times when you look at missing persons cases, sometimes there are undercurrents of, you know, a person's missing but we haven't found them, but we believe it to be suspicious, or a person's missing but we believe it's a suicide. In this case, do you have any of those underlying undercurrents one way or the other?
You know, we've looked at every possible avenue, everything that you've mentioned, because we have had cases in the past like you're talking about. But with Mr. Halleran, I mean, there has been no evidence that has surfaced that has sort of pinpointed one more than the other. It's like he's just vanished.
So when you come to work, do you ever say, I think this may have happened, or is it, I think maybe this has happened, or is it a true mystery? You can't wrap your head around it.
Well, it's different. Some days we do, some days we change our minds. There's different members in the unit who think certain things, but it has gone back and forth. It's flopped back and forth several times. But, you know, of all the investigating we've done and all the evidence we've gathered, there's not one that sort of leads you down one path as compared to the other.
So can you tell me a little bit about St. Vincent's, what that community's like for anyone maybe who's not from Newfoundland, is not familiar with the geography and the population?
Yeah, I would describe it as, you know, one of these quaint, beautiful, scenic little small Newfoundland towns, very close-knit, lots of family. They'll help each other out. It's a one street, one road. People know each other's business. You know, you don't lock your door. They're there to help you in a crisis or an emergency. So it's a really beautiful little community. You know, and they've been shaken by this disappearance because they just don't know what happened. But I do believe that somebody somewhere knows something about Mr. Halleran. I mean, people just don't disappear without a trace. And I'm hoping, you know, these media releases, talking to reporters like yourself, will bring someone forward.
A 73-year-old New Brunswick man has pleaded guilty to abducting a teenage girl last summer in a case that prompted an Amber Alert. Wilbur Crockwell is accused of convincing a 14-year-old girl to leave a group home in St. John's and live with him in New Brunswick. It's alleged she went to a cabin in central Newfoundland to wait for him. Crockwell was arrested a few hours after entering this province. The girl's family says they warned police and social workers about Crockwell for several years before his arrest. He's back in court in August to set a date for sentencing. There's political reaction tonight to a CBC Investigates story we've been bringing you this week about a skyrocketing cost associated with care for children and youth with complex needs and whether there's a better way to provide those services. Now the leader of the opposition is accusing the Liberal government of failing the province's vulnerable children. Rob Antle has the details.
When the PC leader first saw CBC reports this week, he had concerns and questions that grew after hearing the minister's answers.
The minister has simply said, we're constantly doing reviews. What are you reviewing? Where are the outcomes of those reviews? Why are we seeing an increase as opposed to numbers going down?
There are more children with complex needs in care, the highest rate in the country, and costs going up too, $90 million last year alone. All that amid assurances that the needs of those most vulnerable are being met.
This is the best model for us at this point in time.
The minister concludes his comments by saying we have the best model available. I don't agree with that, and neither do the experts and the advocates in the field.
Wakeham says he would lean on those experts and advocates to take what he calls decisive action. That would include a focus on early intervention, additional training, the need for more social workers, and a review of things like foster care.
It's not easy to do this. It's complicated, we know that, but that doesn't mean that you don't do it. And I can suggest to you right now that we can do better.
According to the most recent numbers, there are more than 900 children under the care of the province, 225 of them in private staffed residential placements for those with the most complex needs. Rob Antle, CBC News, St. John's.
Depending on where you are across the province, even across the Avalon, your temperatures are very different. Some heat, a number of warnings already, or a number of records broken as well today as we see those temperatures really starting to climb. We've got a lot more of that heat back into Ontario, and this is going to continue for a couple more days, at least one more day before we start to see some change. So we'll see that heat continue into tomorrow, and then we've got a bit of a cold front that's going to move through that is going to really drop the temperatures up across parts of Labrador and then eventually across the island as well as we see and say goodbye to some of the humidity. For now, we've got a heat warning in place from Corner Brook all the way through central and northeastern Newfoundland, where we are going to see temperatures likely in the upper or mid 30s with humidex values in the upper 30s and even low 40s through the day tomorrow. And then we also have some severe thunderstorm watches for Lab City through to the Valley, and we'll talk about that when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, a luxury car rental company in Corner Brook is driving a hard bargain. The owner is promising rides across town for half the cost of a cab, but his competition is putting a dent in that claim. Here Now's Colleen Connors has more.
This lot is full of luxury. You'll find BMW, Range Rover, and Porsche. Island Exotics has been renting them out for a few years now. And last week, the company launched a new service. Customers can cruise through town in a flashy ride that's cheaper than a cab.
You know, where we wanted to operate something here that was definitely more support for the community, so it shouldn't cost you $22 to get a ride to the grocery store in order to pick up food, right? And then have to get another ride back. I mean, with us, we're 50 to 60% cheaper than the local other services that are offering rides.
Reed and one of his employees got a Class 4 license to operate the chauffeur service. fueling up cars that would otherwise sit idle. He plans to use 2 electric vehicles for most trips and already had 18 bookings last Friday.
We really could have matched the cab rates and just offered a more luxury service. You know, we could have had the exact same prices. Our vehicles are newer. You know, they're more cleansed often. There's, you know, none of the drivers are permitted to smoke or vape in and around the vehicles.
This is the second week now that Reed is offering these cheaper rides all around the city and the Humber Valley area. He doesn't have an app, but people can text or reserve through his website. But what do the cab companies think of this new ride service?
Be careful.
Joe Vokey has been behind the wheel for 40 years. He says it costs close to $6,000 a year for insurance alone. City Cabs, a regulated taxi service, follows the city's mandated meter rates.
If you get injured, we will cover. But if somebody hit you in these things here now that's going around, only the driver is covered as far as I know.
Like our rate is it's like $5.20 to get a ride from Broadway to West Street, right?
Mm-hmm. Reed says the new chauffeur service meant boosting his liability protection to the tune of $2 million.
I can get over to Wayland's Gate and West Gate, between that there, maybe in between $10 and $11.
Vokey doesn't see how the car company can turn a profit safely. As for the city, it won't comment on Island Exotic's new service, but says staff are reviewing it and plan to reach out to Reed for further discussions. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Corner Brook.
Well, Premier Andrew Furey continues pushing back against federal Liberals and the equalization system. Revenues from the oil industry have meant this province hasn't received equalization payments since 2008. But the Premier argues the higher cost of service delivery in this province should be factored into the equalization formula. He told Power and Politics host David Cochrane why he thinks the Constitution needs an update.
The Constitution only says you have to have equalization. It doesn't say how it has to be constituted necessarily. That's always been a policy decision by the federal government, right?
Sure. Yeah, but it does say reasonably comparable level of services for reasonably comparable level of taxation. The way that it's applied right now is there's contemplation for the revenue streams and the taxation streams, but no contemplation whatsoever for the delivery of services. And if you look at a province like Newfoundland and Labrador, I don't need to tell you, we're 3 times the landmass of the maritime provinces combined, with about a quarter of the population, with significant demographic density and geographic and historic challenges. That means that the cost to deliver services is very different for Newfoundland and Labrador, and I would argue different for other provinces, especially with some rural and remote northern communities.
But why is this not a political argument as opposed to a constitutional and legal argument? I mean, the constitutional challenge will take a long time and probably shut down political conversations on this particular issue.
Well, I disagree. Actually, I think that you can have both a political conversation and a constitutional conversation and a legal conversation at the same time, frankly. There is, we believe, an unfairness in the way that the spirit of Section 36 is being applied across the country right now. And it's not fair. If you look at, even if you take a small section of time, 2010 to 2023, and look at the quantums of money that have been distributed across the country, in that period of time, as you know, Newfoundland and Labrador has received $0 in equalization. Meanwhile, the maritime provinces combined, not to pick on them particularly because it's not their fault, have received over $50 billion. Quebec, combined with the Maritimes, has received over $200 billion. Newfoundland and Labrador has received none. So it's my job as Premier of the province to make sure that Newfoundland and Labrador is being treated fairly, and I don't think fairness is being reflected in the application of the formula right now.
Well, how's this for a performance? Flying through the air by your hair. And what about a pregnant woman who juggles pizza with her feet? No surprise, this isn't your typical circus act. Off Balance takes to the Arts and Culture Centre this Sunday, and we drop by for a rehearsal.
This show is about finding connections. I would say that's the base of it. It happens in a community center, your local community center, and it's all those different walks of life that come to that center for different reasons. Maybe to better themselves, maybe to make friends, maybe to perfect a skill or learn something new or get out of their comfort zone. So their stories are told through different classes that happen in this community center. And we have a lead character who is also my co-director, co-writer, Corinne Hagland, who runs the community center, but she's a nosy neighbor, so she's a little bit too much in people's business. So there's talking and amazing circus, from hair hanging to women hand-to-hand acrobatics to contortion, aerials, you name it. So it's a mix of theater and circus in this contemporary kind of comedy circus show. The person that you might have seen on the poster, Samantha Hallis, she has a one-woman show as well. She juggles pizzas on her feet. She's a contortionist, but she also happens to be 31 weeks pregnant in this show, which in itself is great. But for me, I really want to show those different walks of life on stage. And for her, as an artist, as a woman, I think it's really important to show that too, that you can still do, even crazy stuff like circus when you're pregnant. My act itself is a hair suspension act, which means that I fly around in the air suspended by my hair.
I guess it's the obvious question. Does it hurt?
Yes. Is the obvious answer. It's like a joyous kind of liberating feeling to be flying through the air. Not holding on to anything. You have all of your limbs free to move and dance around, and there's something really, really magical about that feeling, and I think about what that gives the audience as well. Some people react really differently. Some people have a very visceral reaction and find it difficult to watch because of that association with the pain, but also it's just so magical because it's like you're levitating. $30 for adults, $20 for seniors and students, and it's a one show only, and it's just going to be like 8 artists that to have these artists all together, to bring together a story, to bring us on this journey, and to see some things that we don't see much of ever, like the pizza juggling on the feet. Right. Women hand to hand is rare anyway in circus, and hair hanging is also a discipline that is hardly seen. It's starting to become new and more popular, but these are acts that you don't have access to. So come see it, because it would be like seeing a Cirque du Soleil show at this point.
Well, from one performance to another, the official mascot for the 2025 Canada Games came ashore in St. John's today. Gusty made a real splash this morning at St. Bernard's Elementary in Witless Bay. Here Now's Jessica Singer had the chance to chat with the mascot on a boat ride through the Narrows.
Look what I just plucked from the beautiful waters of the Atlantic. This is Gusty the codfish. They are the mascot for the 2025 Canada Games happening here in St. John's. Gusty, how are you feeling? Are you excited for the Canada Games? How old are you? Really riveting stuff here from Gusty, one of the most phenomenal interviews I've done in my career. Gusty, are you excited to go back on shore and meet everybody today? Gusty really has a way with words. I'm the king of the world! Look, Gusty, I'm flying. Gusty, I've had so much fun talking with you on the boat today, but do you want to meet Michael Tobin? He is your designer, the student from St. Bernard's Elementary who drew you and was chosen out of around 300 submissions to be the mascot for the Canada Games. Do you want to go meet him today?
Well, look what the wind blew in. Gusty is here in the Here and Now studio, and we're going to talk about the weather. I don't think you're going to need this anytime soon. We'll talk about that coming up.
Well, you want to tune up your two-wheeler without breaking the bank? We get some tips from some ordinary folks at Ordinary Spokes. That's still to come. Well, this is something different. Gusty, the mascot for the 2025 Canada Games, is here with us now, live in our studio. And we found out just before the break that Gusty is a fish of few words, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. But Gusty's going to be very popular in the lead up to the next Summer Games. More than 4,000 people will be coming to St. John's. And I imagine a few will want to kiss the cot.
Yes, be prepared to pucker up, I would say, Gusty, for the 2025 Games. And Ashley, some great weather for Gusty's big introduction in St. John's today, but it really looks like that Gusty is kind of prepared for some wind and some rain with your raincoat there. Is there any of that in the forecast?
Yeah, up across Labrador, for sure. We do have some thunderstorms in the way, but why don't you come with me? Let's go look. Let's go check out the forecast. So here's a look at the temperatures for this afternoon. Like we mentioned a little bit earlier, there is a risk of some thunderstorms up across parts of Labrador and maybe even parts of the island as well over the next couple of days. So Gusty, it's been warm today. Can you take a look? Show me where the warmest temperatures were today. Yeah, Lab City's pretty good. Very good. Yeah, you're definitely not going to need this jacket. But yeah, you go on. I'll take care of the rest of the weather. It's certainly hot, I'm sure, in and around Central. Take a look at these temperatures. 32 degrees in Badger today. A number of records broken this afternoon. Corner Brook, Badger, Gander, Twillingate, Terra Nova, all breaking records this afternoon. And even up across Labrador, no surprise, though, with temperatures like 32 degrees in Lab City and Churchill Falls. It is certainly a warm day today. And we factor in the humidex. Feeling more like 38 in Churchill Falls at the moment and 37 in Lab City. And we do have some humidity in and around the island as well, except not quite as humid, but it will be humid tomorrow. It feels more like 31 in Gander right now and 35 in Badger. So if we take a look at what's going on, we do have a heat warning in place from Corner Brook through Central, all along northeastern Newfoundland. And we're talking about temperatures, like I said, tomorrow, somewhere in the 30s, potentially upper 20s, low 30s, and humidex values closer to the 40s. The reason why you are in a heat warning is because your temperatures tonight, you're not going to get too much relief in the way of temperature. So we're still talking about overnight lows between 18 to 20 degrees. So we are going to see heat for the Bonavista Peninsula through Clarenville, northern Avalon tomorrow. Temperatures will top out in the upper 20s, but tonight temperatures will be a little cooler. So we don't really, we don't qualify for that heat warning. Other thing happening right now up across Labrador, not only are you seeing the heat, but you're under a severe thunderstorm watch. There have been some thunderstorms across parts of Labrador, nothing close at the moment. In fact, there's a cluster of cells just outside Happy Valley Goose Bay right now. It looks like it's going to head south, but the risk of thunderstorms is still certainly there tonight. And some of these thunderstorms, they could produce gusty winds upwards of about 80 or 90 kilometers per hour. So if we take a look at the satellite right now, there's that cluster I was talking about. So it does look like it's moving south of Happy Valley Goose Bay at the moment. Other than that, I can't really show you lightning because there isn't any for now. But you're definitely still in the risk tonight. And there's a line of showers along the southern portion of the island right now. Again, no lightning associated with this, but the risk is certainly there. And we will see that for the west and south coast tonight. That line of thunderstorms will move across Labrador through the overnight. So you're still looking at that risk overnight tonight for Lab West and through central Labrador as we head into tomorrow morning. Other than that, some potential for some drizzle along the south coast of the island. Again, temperatures will be cooler, only into the teens. But again, through central and the west coast, your temperatures only between 20 and 21 degrees tonight. Cooling down in behind that cold front for Lab City. Note those winds, westerly 60 to 80 kilometers per hour. So they are going to be quite gusty. And then still sitting around 22 kilometers per hour. 22 degrees rather for Happy Valley Goose Bay. The risk of thunderstorms still exists tomorrow with that heat as that cold front moves through. I think they'll be very isolated in nature, but they could pop up in the afternoon. Future tracker not really showing too much. There is some showing up through central tomorrow afternoon, so just keep that in mind if you do have any outdoor plans. But again, as far as the temperatures go for tomorrow, much cooler up across the Big Land, but really warm. Again, 30s, low 30s, Humidex values in the 40s. Just make sure that if you have to be outside tomorrow that you find shade and drink plenty of water. Temperature near 28 degrees for St. John's as well. But again, in onshore flow, your temperatures will be cooler, likely topping out in the teens. And then there's that much colder air I was talking about in Lab City, 16 degrees tonight. You will eventually see a relief from that humidity as the day goes on for central and southeastern portions of Labrador as well. I'll get into the long-range forecast coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. And as Ash mentioned, some gusty winds in the forecast. And we're going to go back now to Gusty the mascot, because as Jessica Singer mentioned earlier in her report, Gusty got the chance to meet the young student who came up with the mascot idea for the 2025 Canada Games when he dropped by an elementary school in Witless Bay earlier today. Have a look.
How do you feel looking at the creation that you've made?
It's really cool to see something that I made and now it's real life.
Oh, it's really exciting to see it come to life and see his reaction.
Just really proud. Him and my daughter actually helped him with it, so two of them together is like a lot of work, and beyond proud as a parent when they get stuff done academically is better than anything else.
And what else are you excited about for today?
Seeing what my class thinks of him.
Show me the kinds of reactions you had on your faces when you saw him. What did you look like? What about you?
I think it came out really well. Really represents, I think, Newfoundland and what we're going to bring to the Canada Games.
Just amazing that within a few months, I mean, we did this in January, and he found out, I think, in February, and just from a picture to that, it's just unbelievable how fast it all came together. So I'm really proud of the product and what he created.
Well, it grows fast, it grows easy, and there is so much more you can do with rhubarb than just cooking it in Nan's classic pie. Coming up on Get Growing, we'll show you how to grow and cook rhubarb.
Well, it's what's up in the garden right now. Rhubarb is one of the first things we see every year. It's one of the easiest vegetables to grow, and you can do so much more with it than just cook it in your Nan's classic rhubarb pie. Today on Get Growing, we're taking rhubarb up a notch.
Hi, my name is Evan Murray, and I'm a manager here at Murray's Garden Centre in the Grounds Cafe.
Okay, Evan, what a great rhubarb patch here. Can you give us some tips and tricks on how to grow rhubarb?
Yep, sure. So rhubarb does really well here in Newfoundland. It's actually early in the season, one of the earlier plants to first come up.
And once you get it in the ground and you get it growing, then you don't really have to do a whole lot with it year after year.
No, that's one of the benefits of, our cool, wet summers, our cool, wet climate, I guess, is that rhubarb does so well here. And then in harvesting, grab a stalk down low, we'll kind of pull and twist, and we'll pull it right from the root.
Oh, so you don't even need any tools or anything?
Yeah,
just
so we don't
up.
actually cut, and that actually makes a kind of clean break at the root, and then the plant will be able to regenerate a little bit easier.
Well, this rhubarb talk is getting me hungry. Can we harvest a few stalks and bring it into the kitchen?
Absolutely.
All right.
Hi, I'm Chef Nick Van Meel, and I'm here at the Grounds Cafe today to show you a couple of rhubarb recipes.
All right, so we have all of this beautiful rhubarb harvested. Normally rhubarb we use for like sweet recipes, but we're gonna do a savory recipe.
We're gonna start with a savory, yep, and then we have a classic dessert to follow. First of all, we're gonna make an arugula salad with a rhubarb vinaigrette. We've got some really nice arugula here coming off the farm. So this is just rhubarb and sugar cooked down, basically a jam. And we're gonna add a little bit of olive oil, chopped shallots, a little lemon juice, salt and pepper to that. And we're just gonna dress the salad with about 2 to 3 tablespoons of that really nice vinaigrette. And we're going to add some really nice fresh radishes, a little bit of shallots, some thinly sliced rhubarb. Just gonna go ahead and mix that up. All right, so I'm just gonna put the salad on the plate, and then I'm gonna go ahead and sear the scallops.
It's a great sound.
It is, that's what you wanna hear. You wanna hear that sizzle.
So this is the time of year when rhubarb is typically harvested. It's a great time to be using this if you have it in your garden. Do you use it in many recipes here at the Grounds?
We use it quite a bit. It's one of the first things that we get off of the farm. So it's kind of a signal that summer is coming along. We do a lot of baked goods with rhubarb, scones, pies, muffins. But I really love to use it in salads as well. It's one of my favorite ways to use it because it's colorful and it's easy to use. So we've got some really nice color, some caramelization on the scallops now. You could do this with, chicken if you wanted to instead of scallops. It would work with cod. You could do a vegan version of this with like a seared tofu as well. But I just chose scallops today because kind of the acidity of the rhubarb cuts through the richness of the scallops really, really well. If you really want to impress someone, you can add some fresh orange like I've got here.
Oh, that's really nice.
So this is just gonna make the colors pop. Fresh radish, thinly sliced fresh rhubarb here. Got a little bit of finely chopped chives, a little bit more sauce just on each of the scallops. And there we go. We've got a fresh arugula salad with rhubarb vinaigrette and radish and orange.
Simple and gorgeous. All right, so we just did dinner and now it's time for dessert. What are you gonna make for us?
Yep, so we've got a classic rhubarb crisp. This is one of my all-time favorite desserts.
Yes.
It's super simple, super easy, it always impresses, and you can make it with stuff that you have around the house.
And what I love about rhubarb as a dessert is that rhubarb is a vegetable.
Yeah, technically
so you
it
get
is.
to have your vegetables for dessert,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
a carrot cake.
So we're gonna need about 6 cups of chopped rhubarb, and we're gonna add a little bit of white sugar, about half a cup. Just gonna give that a quick toss. And then I've got a pie plate here, rhubarb in. It's okay if it's kind of brimming to the top because this is gonna cook down. And in that same bowl, we're going to prep the crisp topping. So this is like honestly like a one bowl prep. That's why I love it. No dishes, honestly. So
less dishes to do.
Yeah, a lot less dishes. So we've got half a cup of flour. We've got half a cup of oats, 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, and we're going to use about half a cup of cubed butter as well. And we're just going to mix that together by hand. And then we're just going to go ahead, sprinkle that over. And we're going to bake that at 350 degrees for about 45 minutes. And when it comes out, we'll serve it warm with ice cream. All right,
so now we get to eat it.
Yeah, do you want to put a
little
couple scoops on each plate
Yes,
there, and I'll get
please.
the ice cream?
Okay. I love how thick the crust is.
There we go. Yeah, I want a big
So
piece.
great.
Big piece for me. There we go. Cheers.
Dig in, cheers. Oh,
So good.
this is so good.
Yeah, it's got just the right amount of tartness.
Yeah.
Yeah, love it. Tastes like summer.
Well, Nick, this is just delicious.
Thank you.
These recipes are good to grow.
They absolutely are, and you know what? You might have rhubarb growing in your backyard that you don't know what to do with, so...
You have your vegetables for dessert.
Exactly. Get it in ya.
We had to be very careful as to which grave we exhumed to ensure that this individual remains an unknown.
Well, how do you select one soldier to represent an entire regiment? We speak with an expert just ahead. ahead of the Memorial Day ceremony on July 1st, Newfoundland's unknown soldier was exhumed from a cemetery in France. That work was led by Sarah Lockyer with the Department of National Defence. Lockyer works to identify Canadians who were killed in the First and Second World Wars, but in the case of the unknown soldier, she did the opposite. She spoke with our Heather Gillis as part of an upcoming CBC documentary about the repatriation.
So I've been involved for about the last year and a half to try to figure out which grave we were going to exhume and then actually conduct the exhumation. And my colleagues who work with me, who are military historians, did an incredible amount of historical research to help us figure out which graves should be candidates for exhumation. And then once we had figured that out, I came over here to France on site and then did the exhumation and recovered the remains of the individual who will become the unknown soldier in Newfoundland alongside my colleagues at Commonwealth War Graves Commission. We had to be very careful as to which grave we exhumed to ensure that this individual remains an unknown, because some of my colleagues work on projects to see if they can identify soldiers who are buried as unknown Canadians. So the last thing we wanted was to exhume somebody and then somebody out in the public starts doing historical and archival research projects and then deduces who we ended up exhuming.
How do you identify them?
The starting point really is sort of the archaeological context. So what was found during the discovery? Were there any artifacts with the remains, any cap badges, identification discs, anything with any type of clue of nation, unit, or even personal? And that will then give an idea to the Commonwealth War Graves Commission's recovery units that they are Canadian and that we are to be involved to confirm their identification. Then it's the historical research to find out from the exact location where the human remains were discovered, who was in that area, who died, and who went missing. And that's what we're focused on, who went missing in the location where the human remains were discovered. I then come over here and do the anthropological analysis of the remains here on site because the remains are not repatriated to Canada. And I put together what's called a biological profile. So things like age, sex, height of the skeleton, which we can then compare against the information in the personnel files. But what's important to remember is that many lied about their age. So the date of birth in the personnel file is wrong, which means more historical research to find a birth certificate, a baptism record, to confirm their actual age at death. Then with the history and the biological profile, the age range and the height range, we narrow down that list of missing to as much as we possibly can. And then we start doing genealogy research to find living DNA donors for each of those candidates. And we do DNA analysis in the hopes that we get a positive result. And if we're lucky, we get a positive result. We're able to confirm their identification. And then we come back over here and they're buried in the closest appropriate cemetery to where they fell.
Well, that conversation is part of an upcoming documentary on the repatriation of the unknown soldier. And you can catch that full documentary during Here and Now 1 week from today on Wednesday, June 26th. Well, sunny days and warmer temperatures have many breaking out their bikes for the summer season, but after being laid up for the winter, you may need a tune-up. Ordinary Spokes in St. John's can help with that, and it won't break the bank. We swung by the nonprofit's repair hub at the St. John's Tool Library for a few tips on how to keep your two wheels in tip-top shape.
I'm Josh. I'm a board member and volunteer with Ordinary Spokes. The three main things are flat tires, gear problems, and brake problems. First you take off the wheel, then you take off the tire, usually using a pair of tire levers, and then you make sure there's no glass or anything sticking out and take off the tube, and then put in a new tube, and then put the tire back on, put the wheel back on, pump it up. If the brakes are rubbing, then we usually loosen the cable. If they're too loose, then we tighten the cable. And you do that using a wrench or an Allen key. And to center the pads, you just use a screwdriver, and there's a little screw there you can screw in or out to center the pads. Often the cable is slack when people bring their bikes in, so the first thing we do is tighten the cable. And then If it's having trouble getting to the highest gears, then loosen the limit screw, and if the chain is falling off, then we tighten the limit screw. Allen key, wrench set, screwdriver, tire levers, pump, chain lube. So at the AC Hunter Library, we'll have a repair station in July. Stay tuned on our website or social media for updates on that. We're a do-it-yourself shop, so we don't fix your bikes for you, but instead you bring in your bike and you fix your bike yourself, and we help you out, guide you through the process.
Canada's second largest airline, WestJet, is canceling flights and parking planes in anticipation of a strike. The airline says it will cancel 40 flights by the end of today, affecting about 6,500 passengers. WestJet's maintenance engineers and other technical workers have issued a 72-hour strike notice. They can walk off the job tomorrow evening. The two sides have been trying since November to reach their first collective agreement. Some sad news from the sports world. Baseball legend Willie Mays has died at the age of 93.
There's a long drive, way back in center field, way back, it is.
Well, that's Mays making the amazing over-the-shoulder grab known as the catch, probably the most iconic play in baseball. Called the Say Hey Kid, Mays is widely thought of as the greatest player in baseball history. He won the league's MVP award twice and won the World Series with the then New York Giants in 1954. In 2018, the award was renamed the Willie Mays World Series MVP Award. At 93, Mays was baseball's oldest living Hall of Famer.
I'm Adam Walsh, host and producer of The Signal. We took the show on the road to Conception Bay South to talk to the graduating class of 2024 here at the school behind me, my old high school, Holy Spirit. Here are some highlights from the show. Hello, walking through. Hi. Is that a teacher?
That's our secretary.
Oh, excellent.
There's a lot of spirit at this school, so it's really important for student council to be bringing all that spirit up in all the students. So doing things like spirit days and even going as long as spirit weeks and other activities, like I know around exam season when it was getting really tough, I put up a bunch of motivational posters. There's little things like that.
That's cool.
We have 981 students here at Holy Spirit this year.
That's like double from when I was here.
Yeah, it's the second biggest school in the province, so it's pretty big.
Hi, I'm Margaret Vincent, and I had the pleasure of teaching Mr. Adam Walsh 27 years ago.
It feels like it shouldn't be that long ago.
No, I think it's 5 years ago.
Yeah,
I mean, we both look really good, right?
Yeah, no,
It's
great.
got to be 5 years ago, absolutely.
Just 5 years ago. And you're retiring way early.
And that makes me very sad.
And I know for the rest of you, for Newfoundland and Labrador, as you're listening to this, it's schools in your community, for students, staff, all the work being done. Congratulations to you for the graduating class of 2024 across the province, and for the teachers, all the hard work you put in.
Okay, Ashley, so time for a look at the long-range forecast, but a lot of people still looking to tomorrow because it's going to be a hot one.
Yeah, it certainly is. We will definitely see those temperatures in the upper 20s. They're upper 20s, even low 30s, but it isn't going to last long. As we head into Friday, we're going to see temperatures head back down to more seasonable.
Okay.
So let's take a look at what's going on out there across the province. So there's a risk of some thunderstorms tomorrow. By Friday, things will be in the clear for the most part. And again, more cooler air, more fresh air. Chance of showers up across parts of Labrador through the day and into the evening hours. We will likely see the cloud cover move back in across the island for a time through the day, but overall temperatures will be into the 20s, maybe even teens for the west coast of the island. And again, the very slight chance of showers, but it is still there for the Avalon. Up across Labrador, your temperatures will be a little bit below where you should be sitting this time of year, somewhere between 11 to 15 degrees through the day. And again, we're going to say goodbye to that humidity. Temperatures through Central are likely still going to be in the low 20s, so it's still going to be an absolutely beautiful day. It'll just be a lot more comfortable than it has been for the previous couple of days. Into Saturday, the day will be fairly nice. Again, some sunshine, maybe a few scattered showers here and there. Maybe the risk is some thunderstorms. Got to keep an eye on that one. But for now, chance of showers up across parts of Labrador as well. And your temperatures are going to start to rebound a little bit. So back up into the 19 to 21 degree range. Now, towards the coast, temperatures will be cooler. And then most of us across the island will be sitting somewhere between 18 to 21 or 22 degrees. And again, I have that chance of showers in there for you through Central and the West Coast. And don't be surprised to hear potentially a few rumbles of thunder with that. Long range forecast, pretty nice weekend on tap, 19 to 21 degrees. Now, by the time we get into Monday, it does look like temperatures are going to dip a little bit with the chance of some rain. We also may see some windy conditions with this one as well. That will be the story through Central and Western Newfoundland. The return of a little bit of humidity as well. Not quite as humid as what we're seeing, but still definitely you're going to feel it. And your temperatures will be between 19 to 20 degrees. Now for Eastern Labrador, you're looking at temperatures into the 20s, mid-20s by the time we get into Sunday and Monday with a chance of some showers for the day. And then for Western Labrador, you're looking at temperatures up between 21 and 22 degrees. Your overnight lows, though, still quite chilly, anywhere from 7 to about 10 degrees for the next week or so. This photo, great shot of the sunset, red sky. This is in Kings Point. Ruby shared this great shot with us. I love that color.
Beautiful. Red sky from Ruby. Thank you so much.
Yeah, if you have any weather photos, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Great photo. A nice stretch of weather coming, my goodness. I'm still kind of chuckling from earlier when Gusty was doing the weather with you, and Gusty took up so much of the screen, you couldn't really make out too much. So
no,
Yeah,
No,
it was cute.
but it was really cute. Yeah, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, it was really nice of Gusty to pay us a visit here in the studio. It was a bit of fun, something different.
Yeah.
All right, well, that is it for us. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us, and stay cool tomorrow.
Yeah, good night.